they accept I think 15 different payers to begin with. And then after they moved into our platform, we basically preach the same thing, saying discount dental plan is good if we designed based on adult, child, and all of that. In a year of going live with our platform and us able to tailor make for that person of different locations what they had, we became the second highest payer, and each patient actually ended up spending 2.8 times more. And they immediately saw uplift in the EBITDA just because of the way we structured the program to begin with.
This is the Open Wide Podcast with your hosts, Scott Drucker and Janesh Patel.
All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Open Wide Podcast. I am your co-host, Scott Drucker, here with my co-host, Janesh Patel, and a guest we are super excited to chat with today, Sudha Vetri. Sudha is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Subscribely, which is quite active in the dental space. And Sudha, really appreciate you coming on. I know you have been under the weather the past couple of days. I hope the hydration and the turmeric did the trick.
Yep, yeah. I got tips from the doctor. It couldn't go wrong, right?
Awesome. She's referring to me, that she was texting to possibly reschedule. And I was like, no, you'll be good. Just drink a lot of water. I'll be fine. So great. Sudha, I'm going to read through your bio here real quick, and then we can jump into what you're working on. So Sudha cut her teeth working at McKinsey. She has 15 years of experience as a product strategist and financial analyst. She is an enthusiastic product manager and customer campaigner. As I mentioned, she's most recently and currently in the role of founder and CEO of Subscribely, with the mission to, quote, enable easy access to high quality healthcare. That is a mission we can all get behind. Before starting at Subscribely, she worked in MemberZ as head of product, worked with top DSOs, understood the problem well, and decided to start a horizontally integrated healthcare subscription platform to bring consumerization into the dental space. I didn't know you were at MemberZ before. Maybe you told me and I didn't remember, but I'm gonna pass things off to Janesh to kick us off here, and plenty to unpack.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I knew that either, but I knew you were at McKinsey before, but now I understand more. No, I'm kidding. So great to have you. We meet each other a lot at these conferences and say hi, and we at least know what each other do and have friendly relationships in the space. But I don't know if everyone that listens to us understands who you are and what you do. I know Scott gave your background and bio, but would you mind just walking us through a little bit of your journey from your McKinsey days all the way now to Subscribely, just so they can see maybe the pathway you took mentally to get where you are and why you decided to tackle this problem space?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. It's always a pleasure to chat with you guys, and especially in a quite an environment like this, because most often when we meet, it's always at the bar, we are shouting at each other at their ears. I'm really happy to come in and share my thoughts here. So just to kick off, I'm a very outsider to dental, like everyone else, who happen to be stumbling upon dental, and then you don't have a exit out from there to begin with, I guess.
Janesh still claims to be a dental outsider. By the way, he's actually a closeted dental insider at this point.
Yeah. I'm going to keep that title as long as I can.
I know. Somebody is going to kick you out there. There are probably people like me.
I don't know what the threshold is, but Janesh has passed it. You still might have some time yet.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that depending on how long you have conversation with people who have DDS, you should probably you consider as an insider for dentists, I guess. So I worked in McKinsey. We did a lot of strategy, and then I worked in the even first carbon footprint project. Even American Express and anybody in the world could even understand what a carbon footprint would look like. I was part of that project, working in McKinsey, trying to build a carbon footprint project and tracking and mechanism and all of that. So one thing that always excites me is falling in love with the problem. And I decided to leave McKinsey because we were not part of the solution. We always uncover the problem, we put this beautiful slides, and then we present that to the client, and it's for them to basically utilize our slides and implement. But it it reached a point that once you want to see it through, implementing and then seeing it through on the other side. I joined Moody's. After that, I always worked on a finance for a very, very long time. And then I got my a mini startup gig. Like when I worked in Charles Schwab, I was heading their innovation lab. At that point, we took a problem at a company like Charles Schwab, especially touching so many retail clients. Nothing gets done right away. But we were making very small improvement of a project. So we called it as a mini startup. We have to ideate and then implement a solution in 12 weeks. So it was working in a very closed room, putting all the sticky notes and making sure we were brainstorming enough. The problem has to be narrowed down and it has to have an incremental effect on the end user. And we were able to come up with an idea and then implement and see it through. So I moved to Austin at that point, and obviously, member CEO reached out to me saying, "Hey, we are looking for a head of product. Why don't you come in and design a product?" They just acquired a CDI at that point. It felt like an interesting idea. I had no idea how many people didn't have dental insurance to begin with, because I've always worked in a bigger company, so insurance was sort of given to you. And when I explored and understood the problem, it was fascinating to understand how many people do not have dental insurance, even if they had dental insurance, what the limitations was, and then and what is the bells and whistles that the provider has to go through, and the patient has to go through, and the employer has to go through in obtaining an insurance to begin with, right? It was all nuance, and once we uncovered all the problem, I started digging into designing a solution, and which is what fascinating for any product person to begin with. You fell in love with the problem, now let's design a solution. And whenever I understood the problem deeper enough, there was not a solution or a competition that was existing, even in a parallel, healthcare environment to begin with. I know one medical started at that point, and they were sort of membership, go forward, and all of that different kind of membership was evolving at that time, but nothing was prominent in the space, which is actually truly delimiting the catastrophe versus preventive care. And in dental insurance, the insurance covered only preventive care. Sort of everything outside of the preventive care was not used or utilized. So, and I was not wanting to be an entrepreneur, but when you kind of fall in love with a problem, you want to solve it and see it through, and then the solution pretty much created subscribely to tackle that problem what we identified.
So, what can I sort of take a deeper dive there? When you were at Membercy, there was some part of this problem that they were not adequately solving for.
Yep.
Can you articulate that a little bit more and what you guys are doing? Yeah, just in super basic form, what Subscribely does.
The technology behind it, right? So when you sort of solving, there are two aspects of offering a membership. One is compliance portion and one is a technology portion, right? So when you're solving for a technology piece, there are three actors involved in it, provider, patient, and then sort of employer, the marketplace to begin with. So if you're solving the problem for one, you're still leaving other two players in in the void. So the compliance portion, membership and other prominent player in the market, solve for it. They were compliant in all the states. They were doing it very right. But the technology portion, they were still behind because they were not wearing the hat of a consumer, right? These days, people expect a behavior of an e-commerce system pretty much everywhere you go for, right? The cars has been redesigned after iPhone, and your healthcare model is redesigned after Netflix. People want you to understand and sort of take your personalization into account while you serve the patient. That wasn't there. They were creating a discount dental plan. They were not integrating with the PMS. They wanted to go big and go fast, rather go deep and create a patient journey or an experience. And coming from a product background like that, I felt satisfying the three main players in the market is very niche and very keen. And if you do this right, then not just for dental, you can pretty much do this for every other vertical. That was a aha moment that I had. And knowing that nobody in the industry actually solved for, we fell in love more deeper with the problem, and then we ended up starting our own company to solve for it.
Yeah.
And so
No,
to restate back to you, just to make sure that I'm following properly here. Essentially, it's It's a membership plan for dental practices or DSOs, large groups, a subscription plan of sorts, and we'll want to dive deeper there in a moment. But there are multiple components of having a subscription plan. There's part that's the compliance, and that's what we were talking about. That was in the episode that was just released. Was that a lot of dentists don't realize that they may start their own membership plans, but then there's all this compliance that they have to follow because essentially they're in a way acting as an insurer.
Yep.
And so that's another piece we're interested in. It sounds like the company you were at prior had that on lock and understood that, but was particularly weak on the technical integration side and the experience side.
Mhm.
Is that a fair assessment back?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I mean, like they were solving the need of big dental service organization of launching a compliant plan, right?
Mm,
And they were predominantly offering a discount dental plan, like just like Costco membership, where
sure.
you can get a membership and pretty much get everything at a discounted price, which was solving step one of the 10 problem that you can actually solve for, right? But when you walk into the dental office, you still want to understand what the patient needs and what is the preventive care is designed around, and like how you can actually craft that treatment plan without having you to open your wallet every single time, because the dentists are not a salesperson end of the day, right? They want to treat the patient in a healthier way, in such a way that they don't have to keep selling you something. They want to make sure, hey, I want to take care of all XYZ problem that's there in your mouth, and this is how much it's going to cost, and this is the subscription plan that I can put you in. So I don't have to keep telling you, okay, you have to pay $50 for this, you have to pay $100 for this. This is then there's a negotiation that happens. There is a buying decision that they are being forced to go through, and it's a lot of like resistance that come into play while actually trying to present a treatment plan and having a patient accept that procedures.
So just if you could comment on the state by state thing, you mentioned different states have things may vary, and it's important to have that on lock. But you're effectively implying that having a membership plan as a healthcare practitioner where a patient will come in and pay X number of dollars a month and then get either, some treatment for free, maybe the preventative, the cleanings and x-rays and stuff like that. And then other things at a reduced rate is effectively putting you in the bucket of an insurance company. Is that
Exactly. Yep.
correct?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then certain states, and I don't know if you can comment on which states, if they're the majority, do have special requirements. If they don't, like what would be your messaging to the dentists out there across the country that may have their own membership plan but do it themselves and maybe aren't as educated?
Well, like there are 28 states that dictate you to have a license to begin with, and then there
An
are
insurance
seven.
license.
Yeah, it's sort of insurance slash like discount medical program operator license, right?
Okay.
Because when you collect the money from the patient, you are acting as a fiduciary agent, and the state have their own cancellation policy, refund policy. They have like grievance policy. There's a
Mm,
1-800 number that you have to put. I mean, like certain states goes to the extent of like in what font size you have to have all of this refund policy that has to be put
Yeah,
in place, right?
like the
So
ADA requirements.
yeah. Okay, so it's like it's very detailed requirement, and people think, okay, I'm a dentist, I already have a license from the state, so I can pretty much create this own plan and offer it to my patients, and I'm just offering it to my patients. That's how they think in their mind. What they don't understand is once you start collecting money for the future treatment that you're rendering against a risk or preventive care, then you're sort of acting as a fiduciary agent between the patient and then the provider, right?
mm,
So there are licensing requirement that's there. There is a grievance policy that's there. There's a cancellation policy that needs to be put in place for you to act as that agent, right? So if it's the state of New York, which doesn't dictate anything at all, you can pretty much offer your own license, right? But having said that, what are you saving against? Like all this membership or management company, they don't take percentage of every procedure that's been rendered, unlike insurance. Like they basically take a management fee to maintain the membership and offer all this concierge service to the patient, take that away from your plate, which saves your friend as to attend less calls, rather focus more on the treatment to begin with, right? So that is a perspective that they have to understand. Okay, like if I have to outsource this, or if I have to bring in a management company to manage this membership or a subscription, what is it I'm offering to the patient, what convenience I'm creating, what is a luxury I'm creating for my front desk, and what is the quality of a care that I can actually focus on during that time what I saved in doing all of this paperwork, right? And if they understand that, like, it's a no-brainer. It becomes like, everyone stays in the lane, does what they're good at, and then, like, we leave the treatment portion back to the dentists who are good at what they're doing.
So you mentioned New York. That was interesting that they don't have like a real requirement, but like what would you say is the hardest state to get that licensure or that activation going? Or what was your toughest state to find?
I almost think California is a country on its own in every regard. Like, they go to the extent of, you have to incorporate a company in California, you have to open a bank account in California, you have to actually maintain a balance in the bank in California. Given the fact that we are a registered entity in Delaware, that doesn't matter to them. Like, so it's a whole new regulation policy that is determined by a Department of Health Insurance, which is DHMC in California. That's the hardest, and Florida being the second. And then, like, for other states, like, it's a very straightforward paperwork. But again, like, you have to maintain a bond, you have to give NAIC. Like, there are a lot of set of procedures that you have to follow. It's not one and done. Like, these licenses have to be renewed like pretty much every year, and you have to disclose them, saying how many people life that you're touching, how many support team you have, what is the SLA for the grievance, like what is a 1-800 number call, like, call center wait time. And it's like they go into very nitty-gritty of details to basically like enable you to act as a fiduciary agent between a patient and a dentist.
So California, Scott, we just don't do things there anymore.
Yeah, we'll avoid it at all costs. What's a typical plan? What's a typical membership plan that a dentist, let's say a general practitioner dentist, if you're just to kind of blend average out the country, what are you seeing as a typical plan that they are charging their patients on a monthly or annual basis? And what are the patients getting for that plan?
So it varies depending on the persona of the patient. To begin with, like, you have a child plan which can be created for a child, like, and then you can also implement a regulation such as, like, okay, child plan has to include a fluoride because, like, they need fluoride and, like, whatnot. And then there is a perio plan specifically required for people who have a perio or a gum disease. Like, once they do the SRP, they move into this perio maintenance plan, and then they get like 3 or 4 perio maintenance. So it's another persona that you can target. And obviously the LD adult hygiene plan where they get like, 2 cleanings, full sort of exams and X-rays and emergency exams and whatnot. Some dentists get very creative, like, they and like there is a dentist in California again, like, we still choose to work with California although they're being a pain. He created like an add-on plan, like there is a base plan and there is an add-on plan. He created like a night guard as an add-on plan, teeth whitening as an add-on plan. Like, so they get very creative, like just like any other subscription plan that's out there. So it varies by different persona that you want to deal with, and your like practice, like, population as well. We have created like a dental plan, we have created implant maintenance plan, we have created implant warranty plan. So depending on, like, which audience that you want to attract, like you can, like, sort of like, create a plan accordingly. To answer your pricing questions, the pricing typically varies based on geographical location of that particular clinic to begin with. Like, there is this Beverly Hills doctor who charges $120 per month for his unlimited cleaning and unlimited teeth whitening and whatnot per month. And there is a doctor who charges like, $15 a month to offer preventive care for the patient. So it varies between, like, which location and what you want to.
Interesting. So there could be infinite, really, combinations and permutations of plans that any particular practitioner chooses to offer at their practice, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
But Scott, I think this goes back to like her concept of a management fee versus like a discount plan or like, an insurance group that takes fees on everything, right? So there's like
Right.
certain thresholds you probably want to create just for whatever small plans to meet whatever burden the insurance group puts on top of you on that. But so what I'm hearing from you is because you're structured differently in how you, I guess, how you sell your plan, or management to the dentist office or the dental groups, they have way more flexibility underneath to repurpose that in the best way they see fit.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like everyone, end of the day, the numbers has to make sense. Like, like I said, if an employer is sponsoring this plan, then the employer has to think through, okay, I have 50 employees and each employee has 1 or 1.2 dependent. What does it cost for me to offer a self-insured dental plan? And why am I offering this in lieu of Delta Dental or any other insurance brand that's out there? Like, what is that I'm giving extra to my patients to begin with, right? Can they get like Invisalign consultation? Can they have like braces, and like, they can go through any of the listed dental offices that's around their vicinity and whatnot. And then again, going back to the patient, like do I have to open up a wallet? Do I have to sit every time and make a buying decision to understand? Do I have to opt into this treatment, or do I have to wait? Although I have a decay in my tooth, I just changed my insurance and this insurance doesn't approve this treatment. Like I have to wait for 6 months to actually treat my decay because I changed my job. The insurance changed. So there's a lot of like nuances that you have
Yeah.
to go through, and satisfying those three main actor, which is provider, patient, and the employer, and the customization and making the numbers matter for all three, will basically redefine the care to begin with.
It's an interesting point. Are most customers using this to wholesale replace taking insurance policies, or they have it as an option for those who are uninsured, or they have some plans that you can tier on and stack onto whatever your insurance policy is, or all of the above? Like,
It's all of the above, but nevertheless, a lot of dentists are actually moving away from the lower paying PPO or HMO plan. So they are not saying no completely for the fee for service. Like they're moving into that direction, but they are basically like there are 20 different or 25 different PPO plan that's out there, and it's the services get worse and worse as you go down the premium to begin with, right? So they are probably accepting the top five PPO plan that's out there, and because of the volume and not having an empty chair time, because that's an overhead cost that they are trying to reduce, and then they basically accept or create their own membership plan. There is a doctor in Taylor, Texas, which we recently did a case study. He's out of network for pretty much every insurance that's out there. He doesn't say no to treat those patients. He files he does a courtesy filing so that the
mhm.
whatever insurance reimburse goes to the patient, like so he doesn't have to deal with reimbursement, eligibility check, and whatnot. And he pretty much defines like this is what you need, this is how much you pay, as a result of which this is how your mouth oral score is going to be, and my goal is to reduce that score to this, and like having a healthy hygiene score so that you don't have to worry about losing teeth, or having to put crown or an implant and whatnot.
Well, I mean, it sounds like in general, the plans, the strategy that you have is like pretty beneficial to the dental industry, like whether it's the providers like Scott, like you guys, and how you can manage yourself, whether it's the patient having a little bit more flexibility, freedom, or like you said, not dealing with all the insurance changes. Do you ever have support? And this is me just being ignorant. I'm not quite sure of the plan space just yet. Do you guys have support from like bigger like associations that are like seeing how we can move this strategy, this idea further into the community? Like I'm thinking of like the ADA, the I'm pretty sure insurance companies aren't your best friend, but like are there any people pushing this at a industry level as a way to really think about providing care?
I mean, we have Darby Dental like sitting in a cap table. That's one of our idea for Darby to actually make this nationwide. And we also partnered with Vine Dental. Vine actually saw pretty much firsthand what being a clearinghouse as to how many rejections happen. What is a claim an approval criteria, what's the eligibility criteria, and whatnot. So we create like a Vine Dental plan that is pretty much all the nationwide dentists participate in the plan, and then they can dictate what the discount is going to be. They don't have to abide by the insurance law that's out there. um, the goal or the vision what we have is not to disrupt insurance, but what we think is eventually insurance will sort of adopt into this model. We all don't use car insurance to change oil. Like you don't use home insurance to to service your carpet in your house, right? You use it when the catastrophe happens. So what I'm thinking is preventive care will sort of move into the subscription or a membership model, insurance will exist. Potentially insurance potentially can even buy out like one of those membership companies to begin with, so they get that premium, they manage that on a management fee, and then people will start paying insurance for maybe for implant. Like, we all are going to lose our teeth at some point. I will start paying $10 a month, like whenever my teeth falls out, like, they can put in like an implant, and they can come up with a catastrophe dental plan or a catastrophe health plan to begin with. Then everything should fall under membership or a subscription. That's a mission that we think the industry has to march towards, and like, we are hopefully like being a small part in there.
So what does medical dental integration look like from the insurance perspective? If you start thinking about insurance, I mean the traditional dental insurance is kind of like hacky coupon system, right? Let's put that aside for a second and let's take the membership approach, which should be preventative guided or geared, right? Like the idea is you're seeing the membership fee and you want to keep your patients as healthy as possible to minimize the work that they need, because then that minimizes your cost as an organization, right? So how does, like, take that thought a step further to what the world might look like given medical dental integration from an insurance or membership perspective?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's a fantastic question. So the idea again, the person of the patient, right? Let's say you are a cardiovascular patient, or you are a patient with diabetes. Uh, Maybe you're not showing signs of a PDO, but it's actually makes more sense for you to clean your teeth more often just because of your underlying health conditions to begin with, right? And so, like, making sure, like, these two are actually created or co-created in such a way that all your preventive care lies and the persona of that patient is taken into consideration while defining your preventive care membership or a subscription will make its way, so that one, like, United Healthcare will actually even, like, pay for the patient to take a membership such as that, so that they don't have to actually cut a bigger check just in case you had a heart attack, or like, you are a high diabetic risk patient and you didn't take care of your whole mouth to begin with, right? So the way I'm thinking is, they probably will define as a holistic as a patient, saying, okay, like, you are a high risk, like, cardiovascular patient, your cholesterol level is high, your diabetes is more, so make sure, like, you get 4 blood work in a given year. You get, like, potentially, like, 2 annual visits to a primary care physician, or 3 primary wellness visit, in addition to, like, 3 dental office visit and things like that. Potentially, if you package all of this bundle together, underlying condition of keeping that patient healthy and making him stay away from the hospital, then the insurance is actually going to save a lot more. And that's pretty much what happens in a value-based care, right? If
Right.
you go to a Medicare and if you become a value-based care patient, they want you to not go to the hospital. In fact, the value-based care system is being penalized if a patient actually goes to the hospital, right? The goal is to make you healthy and make sure like all your preventive care needs are met, and there's a recurring revenue that's being generated for all of these providers. The overhead cost of maintaining that patient is far less, so that you don't tap into the insurance at all. It's purely used for the catastrophe to begin with. And that's how I feel like, the whole integration will make sense, the exchange of data will make sense, the holistic view of a patient will make sense, and ideally, like, we all can still remain healthy and paying, like, insurance only for the catastrophe to begin with.
So do you think that the insurance companies are equally as well positioned to spearhead that integration, because they have all of the data? I mean, they have actuaries that calculate out risk of patient based on all of their prior health history. So it seems like they could elbow their way into this game.
Absolutely. I mean, like, they have, I mean, more than all of that, they have financial incentive to make this happen, right?
Right.
Like,
Right. It would be money saving for them if they keep people's oral health good and have lower costs down the road for overall healthcare.
exactly. Yep. I mean, we are
Well,
seeing that movement in Medicare, or like, Medicaid, like, a lot of medical insurance companies like sort of getting into, like, dental, like, insurance to begin with, and sort of
mhm.
their idea is, hey, I'm going to pay PMPM, like, and like, make sure like this guy is healthy, as a result of which, like, he doesn't have complication in his, like, healthcare to begin with. So in our opinion, it should be treated much earlier. You get into the Medicare or Medicaid system much further down the lane. That should be the way of life. Pretty much everyone have to have holistic view of creating a membership or a plan that incentivizes you and treats you for a good behavior, which is making sure you're taking care of your health. And then automatically the premium goes down. They don't have to cut a check and the health score goes up. So it's everything. The burden on the system is very less at that point.
Interesting.
Suda, I think obviously, like you're saying, it seems like there is a new interest and appetite for these member plans and everything. Has there now been enough of a market capture in a certain market? Maybe it's a state, maybe it's a city, or something where there's like data that can show the benefit it's providing to the population and the providers. Like, is there that sense of like penetration of the market for these member plans to like distinguish that kind of improvement?
When the segment wise, we have seen tremendous improvement in the Medicare segment to begin with. So those are the population where the basic Medicare plan doesn't cover dental, so they have to take A, B, and C and whatnot. They have to add on. And the older you get, your dental needs are increasingly high to begin with, right? So that's a Medicare segment that if you take, they're very they're very compliant in following the plan and the treatment procedures because it's going to cost them, it's going to hurt them, if they're not taking care of the teeth, or if they're not putting an implant, or if they're not taking care of the whole hygiene to begin with. So more and more any state around with predominant Medicare population, such as Texas and Florida and all those retirement states, we see the same pattern, where those population increasingly accept this plan, because of there is no guardrails, there is no limitation, there is no maximum cap, there is no waiting period. You pay now and you get the benefit, and you can pretty much dictate what do you want to include and what you don't want to include. So it's convenience, at that point. So that's a segment that we have seen higher adaptation, and any state with that population, we have seen an uptick in volume as well.
That makes sense. I mean, I can see that being an easy like target, like you're saying, the elder populations, more expense, more dental care. It's like a win-win all around.
Yeah,
Have,
exactly. Yeah.
have you mapped out what sort of, I guess, benefit the membership plan brings to a practitioner when stacked up against a traditional dental insurance that they participate in? So kind of run side-by-side test with relatively similar other variables and seeing how their own revenue performs and their patient health tracks.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. We actually did this with Dental Depot. They accept I think 15 different payers to begin with, and
And that's a DSO, right? No,
yeah,
Dental
that's
Depot
a
usually.
DSO.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we were basically they did offer discount dental plan with a different vendor, and then after they moved into our platform, we basically preached the same thing, saying discount dental plan is good if you met an annual maximum cap, they can probably use this as a complimentary thing to get discounts on the treatment, but the comprehensive membership plan is a way to go. And then we designed based on adult, child, and perio and all of that. In a year of going live with our platform, and us able to tailor make for that person of different locations what they had, we became the second highest payer, and each patient actually ended up spending 2.8 times more than the actual lifetime value that
Wow.
they created. The reason is there is a waiting period, once they also implemented other preventive or diagnostic solutions such as Pearl, and the moment they identify a decay in their mouth, it's evidently shown to them, and doesn't really matter whether you got the membership plan today or you got yesterday. You can proactively treat them with treatment plan, and the discount has been offered. It's packaged based on your membership program. So the adaptation went up significantly high, and the shared side treatment acceptance also went high, and they immediately saw uplift in the EBITDA just because of the way we structured the program to begin with.
That's so true. And just shifting away from having a cap on the benefit,
Yeah.
that causes such perverse incentive for people to do some treatment now and then wait for the new year to turn before they get the next step done or the other side of the mouth done or what have you. Yeah, removing that helps a lot in terms of just getting treatment done faster from time of treatment plan.
Yep.
That's a very, I think, valid observation psychologically, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
Interesting.
I
Have
never
you?
know these things. I feel like when we talk about right, Scott, we're always talking about like how actually Suda, one of our other episodes, it might be the one that we just released where we talked about the growth of the dental industry.
Yes, that was
And
today.
we were talking about like where is this coming from? Like who's gonna benefit and how does this happen? And then one of the things I said, which is now probably wrong from what you just said, is I was like, I don't know if we increase the dental market by spending more per head per year. I thought it was just getting more people to engage in the insurances that they already had, like you said earlier in the show or in the podcast, where not everyone utilizes their dental insurance and not everyone has it. And so my thought was a lot of the growth was going to come from more people having access, but then also more people utilizing the access that they have and just not more spend per head, but more heads to spend. But what I'm just hearing right now is
Both.
there's different ways to actually increase spend per head at the same time because of the perverse incentives that you guys just mentioned.
Yeah.
That's an interesting
There
learning
is a
right
truth to that madness or the numbers out there, right? Like, it's not that everyone does not want to utilize the insurance to begin with. Like, if insurance keep cutting the check for all the premium what they collected, then they would be actually declaring bankruptcy to begin with, all right? Uh,
there.
so there is a so like in the actual medical industry, they say that 80% of the people pay premium for 20% of the check what they cut, right? Like, so the people are sick and they're cutting checks for that, and all this healthy adult hygiene are actually paying a premium to make up for that. But in dental, that's not how it is. Like, you pretty much are using your insurance for the preventive care. So I cannot be paying someone for, like, cleaning up their cavities. Like, it's not going to work. The balance doesn't happen there, right? So that's the reason why the numbers stays where it is, and it's never going to increase, because dental like insurance have to find a ways to decline the claims, or like readjust their claim, like loss ratio and whatnot, because of the way it's been structured. But once you move the preventive care out of that, and if you truly have that as a catastrophe that you're playing up against, like some accident that happens, or like anything that is catastrophe that can happen, then the psychological, like reversal effect will happen, and the data will prove right then and there. Like people will start saying yes to the treatment, and the dentist will see the numbers going up, the utilization will go up. The benefit of all of which is like your health is going to improve. Like your whole health is integrated to your overall health. So potentially we are all going to stay healthy, retain our actual natural teeth, and then we can actually like have a better life.
I
Yeah.
wonder if there's also some of the psychology of like, okay, they paid for it, they committed to this thing, right? And now that there's money already on the line, you feel there's like that kind of, I don't know if it's loss aversion or if it's almost a similar principle to if you sign up to do a race or some competition, you're going to get in shape or better fit
Yep.
because you already put money down and you're going to do the damn thing anyway, right? Like, that's super interesting. Now, could you make a case for like a subscription for full coverage? Would that unit economics work out for, like, let's say a typical general practitioner that has a book of say 1,500 charts? Could they be $1 million business a year? Or does the subscription get too astronomical where people wouldn't sign up?
So yeah, I mean, like so most of the fee for service practice, like the doctor in Taylor, Texas, like did exactly that, right? Like he designed his insurance, or like the membership plan around the risk score in your mouth. So what he basically determined is he wouldn't give like healthy adult hygiene care for you if your like teeth score is like 4 and above, and then like the summation of that is like something, and then you also have like an underlying cavity and all of that. There's no point in just giving you a membership plan or a subscription plan just to clean your teeth, because he knows he has to treat that particular teeth. He has to do potentially a filling and a root canal or whatever
Smart.
that's appropriate to make that like natural teeth like retain longer. And
Yeah.
then as a result of which doing that, like the potential loss of that teeth or bone grafting or whatever that happens thereafter goes down. So he's going to incentivize you for being compliant. So the first year you might be on a high risk plan, and then like once you're staying compliant, and if your risk score is like lesser than something, then he'll put you on like a medium risk score and a lower risk score. as a result of which he's not compromising the quality of a care. There is no threshold, nobody dictating him when to drill the teeth, when to do the filling, and how much to do the filling. Like, he doesn't have to invent disease in your mouth for him to increase his EBITDA, right? Like, he basically have to take care of a patient's mouth, like, in a healthy way, and he can
Hmm.
clear the patient on a different risk code, and then, like, assign a plan accordingly, as a result of which it's a win-win for all of us.
Yeah, no, I like
Interesting.
that's very interesting. I have a question to take us a little off this course. So basically, I'm going back to the outsider comment we started in. So Suda, I know. I mean, you built this company obviously from the ground up in dentistry, in a place that you don't have super familiar with, but now you're like a mainstay. What are some of the things when you're building your business, especially in this member plan, that were just things that you're like, oh, I wish I knew this, or just some of the obstacles you had to overcome to get Subscribely off the ground? Because I know, imagine going up against insurance, kind of changing mental behavior of dentists in like the front office and how they process. All that seems like a pretty astronomical feat. And then I know there's been other plans like Membercy and stuff that have helped kind of massage the market, but still it hasn't cracked wide open. So I know there's still struggles. What were those for you?
I mean, like, one, like every other founder, we were so naive. We thought like the better product is going to win the market. And like, we understood the problem space very well. We was like, oh, like we understand consumer, we understand patient. I interviewed like, quite a few providers. Now I understand providers. It's how hard it is to understand an employer. So we sort of like, going in the mode of like, oh, like I understood different players in the market, and what we didn't understand is a dental is a community. It's a very close knit community. People have to create trust, even if you have to try to sell or like bring in like change to the behavior to begin with. And what we are trying to change is a patient behavior, their reliance on like insurance. So there is a provider behavior to begin with, and then the front office have to stop pitching insurance, start thinking, oh,
Yeah.
I can put you in a membership plan that's beneficial. So pretty much I'm creating a change, but what we thought, oh, solving a problem is the best thing that you can do, but change is the hardest thing that you have to implement, right? Like, nobody wants to change, like, because it's a known devil. Like, I know what is a 1-800 number that I have to call to get the eligibility check done. There are a bunch of automated tool that works, like, where I can submit the claim and then call it good, and there is a reason that they can give for not accepting treatment or not giving certain treatment to begin with. So we truly underestimated the power of change, and that's something that I wish I had known. Then we would have focused on one change at a time than like focusing on all of it, because we burned a lot of money in creating the best product, and we truly underestimated the GTM because of the level of change that we were trying to create. And we had like a Uber failure, right? Like, Uber did the same thing. Like, they thought, oh, let's just do this. People are going to like, book cab, and they're not going to rely on taxi. It's a change that you're creating in people's mind, and that basically it's the hardest thing that you can make them adopt to that change.
What does the sales cycle look like? I guess I understand the sales cycle to the individual practitioner that wants to host one or several plans and present them to his or her patients. That's to me seems pretty straightforward. But what does it look like for, let's say, larger groups, or maybe DSOs that want to directly support some of the businesses in their area and want to have a plan that basically replaces the dental insurance that a company, an employer in the area had prior? Who do you like? What does that sales cycle look like? Who do you talk
It
to
did,
first? What's the path of least resistance there?
like it depending on how much pain they are living with now. So it's like basically, like if you're like if you just had like back pain, then you're going to be very religious and stretching yourself, like making sure you're compliant on doing everything, because you know the pain of like having a back pain to begin with, right? So depending on that, to be very honest. The another one is like they would have got so frustrated with the payer negotiation. They're like God, like again, like I'm going through this payer strategy, like my UCR is so low, and like I'm trying to open like 50 more location, and this is not happening. Like how can I actually increase my EBITDA, reduce my operational costs, make
Hmm.
sure like my friend desk is not getting more calls, and like so like if you have to put them in different bucket in different stages of the pain and the problem that they are facing, that time when you actually propose a change, which is a solution to the list of problems that they're trying to tackle in that quarter, the sales cycle become lesser, right? Because when it's truly not a pain, although you have identified a problem, if you ask them to change, they're like, oh, that's not something that I'm going to worry about because it's not the problem that I'm dealing with. Like, it's working. It's
Sure.
like, I'm not touching that now.
I guess, do you go, has it, the sale worked through an employer first? So some large company, the timing was right. They just had, whatever the issue was, it was top of mind. You sell them on your concept conceptually, but then you need the providers in the area to also accept. Does that become then an easier and more smooth sell?
Well,
Uh,
it's a classic chicken and egg story to begin with.
yeah, sure.
When we have to get more providers aligned in the network for you to actually go tackle an employer,
Okay.
especially given the fact that when we started the company, COVID was what peak, and people were literally even moving states. Like, people were working in California, but they were living in Austin, Texas. So when an employer has to decide on, like, an insurance or a provider membership plan, it's no longer the geographical location of that employer to begin with. It became the geographical location of the employees, and they can actually work remote. So you have to have a nationwide coverage. And when
Right.
you go and talk to a nationwide coverage, like, providers to actually join hands to create something, there's an underlying fee schedule because, like, the cost of operation of a mom and pop dental office is different than a DSO because their operational cost is, like, really far apart. Their UCR could be really far apart to begin with. Then you go to the maze of creating a discount dental plan, which again, like, you're preaching to the choir. Like, it doesn't solve the problem. You still have to sell every single time when the treatment is presented to them. So in ideology, you have to create, like, in a geographical circle, and like what works for California might not work for Texas. So we have to create, like, a local based, like, location based, like, plan. And then, like, the mobility of people moving from one to another will actually solve this problem. So the idea is that you grow deep, grow broad, and then, like, grow broader. Right? That should be the strategy.
Yeah.
Interesting. I would love to hear the update on Subscribely, where you guys
Yeah.
are trajectory wise by whatever metric you want to share, whether it's size of your customer base, size of your team, revenue, other milestones, whatever. Where are you guys in the journey?
I mean, it feels like a long journey thus far, but, like, although we have been in the industry for, like, say, 3.5 years now, but, like, sort of like the compliance and the regulation, like, ate like almost the first 14 months of the company to begin with. Like, we had a first employee who was actually a lawyer. Right? Like, we wanted to be compliant in all the state that we wanted to operate to begin with, because we don't want to be getting a provider, getting an employer, then going and getting a license. Like, that's a last thing that you want to do. So in terms of burn, 60% of the burn for the company to begin with went to a legal firm. Like, we have actually four different major legal firm which is engaged with us to operate, like, to get a California license, to get a PPO license, and this and that. So majority of the burn went there. And then, like, in the last 12 to 14 months is when we actually even started to go to the DSO market to begin with. So we grew significantly, and this year alone, like, the last quarter to spare, we have grown 6 times than where we were in the terms of footprint just in the last, like, 10 months.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Great
So
growth.
that was
Yeah.
like, day and night change, right? Like, the power of multiplier, the power of technology, the power of hard work that we have put in actually start to pay for it. And then, like, eventually, like, the one thing that we have learned when it comes to implementing a change, however you can actually play for perfection and make it very frictionless, although you're actually changing them, will speak for itself. Like, when the first DSO went live, we literally, like, wear their enamel, like, every single week. Like, the founders used to call me, and we pretty much wanted to make sure, like, the implementation was a smoother that they can actually remember, and we were there day and night, right? But once that was there, we implemented that. We learned a ton from implementing to a DSO of that size, and they became our voice of a customer, as a result of which we got, like, multiple other DSOs of that size. And once that, like, slowly bubbled up, we actually got, like, ideal dental. Like, that was, like, the awesome aha moment that we had, to serve a client as big as that. And that's a shorter cycle that we actually closed them as well. Like we met them in an ADSO. I met Dr. Ahmed, and then he understood the vision, and then he introduced to their team. Then once they learned what we have to offer, how we have built a technology, and we proved a hypothesis between like small players and vendors and whatnot. And when we highlighted all the problem pain point that we could actually solve using a technology, and as a bigger DNO, like as big they are, that basically resonated very well with them. And then we went live in July, like just like that, like talking to somebody in March and going live with July with all the 150 location was nothing short of a dream for us. And then we have been with them for the last 2 quarters, and the results have been amazing thus far.
That's
That's great. And it sounds like you've raised capital. It sounds like you have kind of strategic partnerships on the capital raise side with Darby and Vine. You mentioned. Where are you on that front?
I mean, again, it's a roller coaster. I'm pretty sure, Jinesh probably received like some of the.
It all blends. It's an always ongoing.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's a long tailwind, rise that I can remember. There was at one point I was like, am I building product or am I building pitch deck? We went through the our thinking
I can
like on
relate.
the various of a pitch deck and a model that we represent. And then when we were actually raising our initial seed round, angel round, we got that in like 2 months. Like we were able to sell this to a value based chief medical officer. We got 250K angel check there and there, and then we explained that to another SaaS guru, Gokul Raja Ram. He works in DoorDash. He is Silicon Valley a guru. And when we explained him the problem, and he understood the DNA of where we come from. He basically wrote us an angel check. So it was very easy process. They spoiled us to begin with. There comes the proving the product market fit. Like it took us long. It took us almost like 14 months to close a seed round, but we closed it strong. We actually raised like $4.3 million. The beauty of it is when you go and pitch to Silicon Valley, sometimes they don't understand how big and wide the dental market is, and they're like, how what is capital market, and what's the market size, what's the TAM, and they don't even understand the TAM of dental to begin with. Thanks to Jet Pearl, and they're making headways. Now when we go to talk to big VCs AC360, and they actually understand how big dental market is and what they actually contribute to the medical world. So yeah, we did close a seed round. From the time we closed a seed round, we grew 6x. Our primary focus from this year to next year is going to be GTM, and then we also have gone live in other vertical. That's another play story. What we did, look, we were heads down on dental. There is a primary care physician came and reached out to us saying, "Oh, can you offer direct primary care membership?" We are like, "Oh, we want to be multi-vertical. Let's see whether that works." And it worked, right? And then we wanted to do dermatology, and that worked. So we sort of in a pivotal moment to actually create a holistic health plan, preventive care health plan that can sort of include primary care, dental, and chiro and all of that. That's a exploration path that we want to explore, but we still are going to be heads down on dental and focusing on a GTM.
That's awesome. Janesh, you have any other
No, I
any
mean,
startup questions?
no, this is great. I mean, I feel like we talk a lot about this kind of stuff, especially in person. My other just kind of fun questions as we close out are more like, what is I guess the most interesting way you've seen somebody utilize a membership plan in an office? I know you talked about the group that has the tiers, and I thought that was kind of crazy. That could be your answer, but is there another one you're like, what? I didn't even think that that's how this would be utilized when I built this product in this management.
Yeah. So alongside the line, we actually created a product called Denture for Life, which was very interesting. And we always joke around. My CFO is geek and numbers, and then it's like, Sudha, once you create a denture for life, they're denture for life. There is no retention, there is no churn there. Your teeth is not growing back, and we were so amazed when we actually created that plan, because the initial friction of them accepting a cheaper denture and a premium denture is the point of maintenance to begin with. They all go for a cheaper denture because of the low entry point. But again, affordable and others don't want to sell a cheaper denture because of it can actually scar your gum. There's a lot of maintenance. The relining has to be done. So it's not one and done. You put something and you forget. And when we created a denture for life plan, where you can actually sell a premium denture, make sure you're giving all the warranty coverage, like such as relining, adjustment, and replacement of a denture and a printing a copy denture and all of that. We never thought we would do that. Like we were actually creating a plan to retain your natural teeth, and like you want to have like teeth whitening, and we were thinking of all other Bollywood and Hollywood concept of maintaining your healthy teeth. But what we learned is denture for life is actually the way to go, and that's a lot more convenient, and your teeth is not growing back. So potentially, like people will graduate from child plan all the way to the dental plan, I guess.
Oh, you have the
Oh, I
whole
hope not. Maintain your teeth. Preventative care.
Yeah,
You,
like,
you can
It's also
avoid that denture plan.
you have the denture for life, then you have the natural dentures for life, kind of like.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, I also read a research. I don't know. You know about the Scott? Like they're saying you can regrow the teeth now. There is a research that
Yeah,
shows.
I see some
Wait,
early work
what?
coming out of that. I think it's a Japanese group or something like that doing some of the research. I feel like it's still very early days and far. I don't know. Were they? They were not at animal trial stage, were they?
I don't know. I mean, like all I've been told is it's a kind of a calcium that gets like lost in your bone, and as a result of which you lose like the ability to regrow the teeth. And they are like sort of making sure your body can still produce that factor so that like the teeth sort of regrows so that was a pretty interesting concept to begin with.
Yeah,
That's
that's like yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's related, but there are all the studies from Nakamura in Japan who does effectively looking at youthfulness and being able to turn cells back into mesenchymal cells to heal effectively and youthen. I don't know if that's a word, but yeah, there's all kinds of crazy research going on right now. But I was thinking about that denture for life plan and thinking, wow, that would be a great list to be able to target to convert them to full fixed cases, get them out of the denture for life plan.
Yeah, I mean, there is another dentist, the Beverly Hills dentist, like actually taught us how to create, implant plan. And he was like, when you are in 25, like you can start paying like so much, say, you want to pay like $20 or 30. So you're paying up as and when the teeth falls out, like you can put the implant. So you're not having this one big, major expense of putting in an implant. So you're sort of like prepaying for,
it's like
implant.
putting it in your safe piggy bank. Like
Yeah,
this is my
implant money. And then,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
implant bank piggy bank. I like that.
Yeah. So yeah, like
Cool.
it's all sort of crazy things that people can think of. Yeah.
All right. Well, we are excited to watch where things go. Sudha, if anybody listening wants to get in touch with you, either if they are a dentist or a DSO looking to talk to you about getting a plan together, and you can kind of put a plug here if you guys are hiring for any roles, how do people get a hold of you?
Oh, they can actually go to subscribely.com, or they can reach us out via LinkedIn. We are very active. We always keep a tab on all our incoming message. Again, if even people don't want to launch a membership plan, if they want to understand, will that actually benefit them? What are they leaving on the table? What does a calculation look like? We are very, very happy to help them out. Because it's not everything is meant for every practice to begin with.
Right.
So we always offer we take the last 6 month production or a 1 year production. We understand where the utilization looks like, what the PPO reimbursement look like, what the cancellation, treatment acceptance. There's various different 15 categories that we analyze to understand. Okay, this is where your EBITDA is getting lost, and this is where we can help you out, and this is the status of your current growth structure looks like. So if they just want to consult us and create their own plan, if it's a single location, happen to be in New York, they don't need a compliance, and if they want to do it off an Excel sheet, we're happy to be sharing our knowledge, what we learned, and we probably would learn a thing or two. So they we are happy to assist them in any way we can.
Awesome. And if anybody has their own plan but doesn't know if they're compliant, also probably good to reach out and find out. All
Absolutely.
right, everyone. Sudha, thank you so much for joining. Guys, this has been another amazing episode of the Open Wide podcast. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.